Hello, nerds around the world. Welcome to another installment of the Nerds Unites One podcast. I'm CMO, your host, and tonight, and this is episode 59 of our show, and we'll be discussing our top 10 worst installments in movie franchises. And to do it, I had two great guys. Of course, you know these guys. They've been on the show frequently. And of course, we have a member of the OG gang. It's Jack Fern. Jack, what's going on, man?
Hey, great to be here talking about some of these horrible movies.
Okay, and also we have Colton Kuhn. Colton, what's going on, my man?
Hey, happy to be back after being absent for a few episodes and whatnot. And you're gonna see a side of me that I don't like to show, the side of me that criticizes film sometimes.
Okay. Like I said, it's always great to have you, though. It's always great to have you. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Like I said, our show today said we will be talking about our top 10 top 10 worst installments in movie franchises. And these are the installments in movie franchises that are considered among the lowest in terms of quality in movie franchises. The most, and we're talking about absolute, abysmal movies in their own right. Horrible in terms of writing, screenplay, acting, direction, so forth and so on. And then we'll be going through 10 of these. We start off with myself, and so going from number 10 to 1. Of course, we're going from me. So I'll start off and going on to my number 10. Me is Spider-Man 3 of the Raimi trilogy. Spider-Man 3 is no doubt it's no arguing it's a bad movie. For the first almost third of it. It seems pretty decent, but when you get the Sandman and all the bullshit, and then the black symbiote student and all that stuff, you realize you're just shaking your head in disbelief. You want to strangle yourself at that point, most definitely. Some of the story was half-heartedly told. The effort wasn't even there, even though Tobey Maguire and the rest of the cast gave good performances. It just seems so flashy, and they were trumped by the special effects, and the absence of a good story. Don't get me started about emo Peter Parker, and I weep for Tobey Maguire. They had to do all that stupid shit, and it hurts my eyes every time I look at those scenes, And Venom's origin story. I mean, Venom was rushed. He was just in there for to bring in the moolah and stuff like that. It's just like there's no doubt it could have been handled better. Yeah, you can tell this is a movie that there were too many hands in the cookie jar. Most definitely. Yeah,
as Paul would say.
But it's definitely an inferior movie compared to the first two installments. All right, Colton, why don't you give us number 10 on your list?
Number 10 on my list is Alien Resurrection. So, after 4 movies, the villainous company finally gets its hands on an alien. This is a story that was 18 years in the making. And to start off, we discovered that the Weyland-Yutani Foundation has been bought out by Walmart. It goes to show you the astounding writing we're in for when the primary villains aren't around for the movie that sees their big plan get accomplished and doesn't feature anyone related to the villains from the past movie to gloat in the Ripley clone's face that the original Ripley died for nothing. Aside from that wasted potential, the rest of the movie is okayish, but it leaves you wondering why did they bother making it. It's lower on the list, however, because the movie did have some interesting moments here or there, in addition to some of the performances like Sigourney Weaver's and Ron Perlman's. In the end, it's a watchable film, but the storyline should have been bigger, and it leaves you wanting more.
Right. Yeah, I still got to see. I only seen the first 3. I still haven't yet to see the others.
And then do yourself a favor and stop after 3. I mean, 4 is so unnecessary, and the fact that it might be ignored in the next movie, it's like, I don't know. I mean, watch it if you want to. I mean, if only for the humor of seeing a pro firefighter, Josh Whedon's attempts at bringing the if only for seeing Joss Whedon, what the Firefly crew would have been like under more executive meddling and what have you, since Joss Whedon wrote this film.
Well, he only wrote part. I guess he wrote like part of it. You know, I guess he wrote the screenplay, but I guess it was, you know, like hastily rewritten in the whole process. I guess.
Like there was executive meddling involved, I'm sure, but I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, Jack, you said you had 5 on your list.
Yeah. Does the first movie in a franchise count? Because then I would have 7.
Well, yeah, I mean, if it's the worst in the franchise.
It doesn't matter.
Sorry, it's your show, Chris, and you decide.
It doesn't matter to me.
Okay, so I have 7 now. Number 7, the Divergent series, the first one, Divergent.
Okay.
That was a terrible, boring movie to sit through and watch. I didn't even want to see the second one, but my friend said it was okay, so I saw it, and it's much better. I mean, it's still not great, but it's better than the shitty first one. So that's my number 7.
Funny you should mention that, but we'll get to that later.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Moving on. We're going on to number 9 on our list. I mean, next. And number 9 for me is X-Men: The Last Stand. X-Men: The Last Stand. After Bryan Singer knocked it out of the ballpark with two wonderful X-Men movies, Brett Ratner had to put his hands had to meddle with the whole X-Men franchise. And what did we get? A mutant cure for mutants. You know, Professor X being killed. You know, Hugh Jackman. I don't know. At least he tried to give his best. You know, but I don't know. There's something about it. He just seems bored the entire time. It's just like, and all of this is all about special effects and special effects and, you know, about action, the stunts and so forth. You know, it lacks some of the, you know, it lacks some of the complexity and themes of the first movies. I mean, it takes it to a whole new level of absurdity. It's not Batman and Robin bad. I mean, well, it kind of comes close, but you know, some of the shit in this is like, it feels so lazy, and you know, in terms of writing, it's just like, like I said, it's half-heartedly done. It's just like, it's so shoddily done. It's just like, I think some of the special effects look lame, even though I mean, I guess there wasn't that much care and investment, and you know, it's like I cried wanting for Bryan Singer. Yes, he went on to do Superman that year, but I mean, that Superman was even good. At least, you know, at least he could at least pleaded with him to come back, I mean, instead of. I mean, I'm not gonna have anything against Brett Ratner. I mean, of course, he did Rush Hour, which I liked, but he's a so-so director. I mean, I just sink to the floor. It just whenever I think of that movie, it's just like what he did with it. I mean, thankfully he's recovered at that point, but that it's, to me, it's no doubt it's unwatchable. No doubt. All right, Cole, why don't you give us number 9 on your list?
Before that, I've heard that that most of the problems in the movies of X-Men 3's problems weren't exactly Brett Ratner's fault, and were kind of just a combination of executive meddling and Bryan Singer leaving to do Superman Returns. But well, in the end, still, yeah, it was a definite low point in the X-Men franchise, and the fact that at the time it was actually the end of the main X-Men franchise was nothing to smile at. Thankfully, we now have the awesome Days of Future Past and the alright, the Wolverine now, and what have you, and getting X-Men Apocalypse soon, so no harm, no foul in the end, I guess. But anyway, number 9 on my list is Jurassic Park 3. This is another movie that leaves you thinking, why did they bother? The premise itself was interesting, with a small band of characters being trapped at Site B, but what follows is a barely feature-length series of chase scenes starring some of the most idiotic characters in the franchise. I mean, it's truly amazing that William H. Macy and especially Taya Leone's characters didn't get eaten. And also, this movie is only 93 minutes long. I mean, really, why did they bother making it, aside okay, yeah, obviously they want to make money and what have you, but it's just, if you watch this movie and Jurassic Park back to back, the drop in the quality of the storytelling is shocking. Jurassic Park 3 is lower on the list, however, because some of the action scenes were cool. I liked that we got a new evil dinosaur, and in the end, the film doesn't really shit on Jurassic Park's legacy or anything, or render any of the previous adventures a moot point. It's just there. We'll get to a movie that really shits on a franchise's legacy later in my list.
Okay. I mean, Jack, I know you said you have like 6 installments, on your list. You said like 7 on your list, but when we get to number 6, we'll go for that with you. Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Moving on, we'll be going on to number 8 on my list. And for me is Star Trek V: The Final Frontier.
What has God a starship?
Yeah. Probably the best line in what is considered by many to be the low point of the Star Trek franchise. It's like William Shatner took his turn to direct. And you thought that was bad. No, I'm just kidding, but yeah, Shatner, of course he co-wrote the story and directed the whole thing, and then Installment, the premise was interesting to say the least. It's just, I'm not sure. It's just the execution wasn't really. It could have. It didn't meet to what we expected. Because despite the grandness of the vision that the film had in mind, I mean, there is some ambition behind it, but it's got a lousy script, some bad acting, some horrible special effects that remind you of a canon movie. Say like Superman 4: The Quest for Peace and stuff like that. It's just like, I did enjoy the actor playing Sabac's Hadbar, Lars Lockenbill as Sabac, but yeah, everything about it is just like you just marvel at I don't want to say the incompetence of it, but just like you marvel how badly it was made. It's just and the humor is just so weak. It's just trying to I know now they were trying to capture that success of Star Trek 4 had, because of the humor and everything like that, and it's just false flat. Everything about this movie it doesn't live up to what you expect. It's just not a very good movie. It's just terrible to sit here. Most definitely. Okay, Colton, why don't you give us number 8 on your list?
Number 8 on my list is Terminator: Salvation.
I kind of like that one.
Shut up, Jack. I've heard that. I'm kidding, Jack. I'm kidding. I've heard that Terminator Genesis is worse, but I haven't seen that film. But anyway, like Alien Resurrection, this is another movie with a story arc that's been built up for several years. Our heroes have been trying to save John's life in addition to changing his fate, but they failed, and now we are in the future war, and boy was it bland. It's like, yeah, some of the action was cool, but it didn't really feel like we were watching a Terminator movie, so to speak. Mainly because very little of the John Connor we saw in this film resembled the character we had seen in the previous films. And in fact, we spent more time with Sam Worthington's character, Marcus Wright, than John himself. Granted, the reason for that was that John was going to die in this movie originally, and the Resistance would have Marcus take up John's identity so the machines wouldn't know. But that would have been a real slap in the face to everything prior to the... But that would have been a real slap in the face of everything prior to the start of the franchise, I think, because I just can't wrap my mind around it. It sounds like it was just a twist for the sake of it so that the movie wouldn't be even more boring than it actually was, but I wouldn't want John... I mean, if they wanted to kill off John, do it maybe after 1 or 2 movies in the Salvation franchise as opposed to the very first one. Okay, he didn't die, as we all know, but then again, the franchise itself got killed, and we got the kind of sort of reboot film Genesis, which I'm still planning on seeing at some point. But anyway, the marketing also had John state that this wasn't the future his mother warned him about. But upon seeing the film, all that amounted to was Marcus being an actual cyborg, which was never established as a result of Sarah and John trying to change the timeline, and it didn't amount to much anyway since Marcus dies at the end of the film.
Oh, yeah.
Like I said, I heard that Terminator Genesis was worse, but they at least tried to do something different regarding John's character and all the time travel crap. Granted, what I saw of what they did to John is questionable, but I'll gladly take that questionable plot twist over the dullness of Terminator Salvation.
I'm not arguing with there. No, I'm not arguing with there. It's just like, it's just like it's so falling off its crest. I mean, I don't have any faith in the Terminator franchise anymore.
It's not every day that you see a franchise get killed off like 3 times. The first Terminator 3 ends the franchise, then Terminator Salvation, then Terminator the Sarah Connor Chronicles gets canceled, and then Terminator Genesis. 4 times.
It's actually, they say that Sarah Connor Chronicles is actually pretty good.
It is pretty good, but it still got canceled because the freaking writer's strike happened, and it never got during its first season, and they just never got a chance to really pick their momentum back up, and then, which sucks even more because they actually had an opportunity to maybe kind of bridge the Terminator movies with the Sarah Connor Chronicles, but alas, we'll never know.
Yeah, that was a good show.
Oh, yeah, it's just like, I don't know really. I wonder if when the rights revert back to James Cameron, I wonder if it's like if he's going to take another crack at her. It's just like, oh no, I'm not going for such hurt again. What they did to my franchise. Oh my lord. Okay, going on to number 7. 7 for me is Alien 3. Alien 3 is no doubt. Is it after like 2 masterpieces you have with Alien, directed by Ridley Scott, and Aliens by James Cameron, you get this fuckfest, directed by David Fincher, who was at the time, he was like a music video director, before he went to go on to direct such classics as Fight Club and The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. This movie just like is so. Like it's so clunky in this writing, and then like I said, Sigourney Weaver just kicks ass as usual. But the whole thing is what they did with Newt and Hicks. It's like, dude, like, can you go any? Can you set the bar any lower for yourself? It's like and the way they just like carelessly took them off. It's just like that really put me off, and it was just like, and the alien wasn't even that intimidating. It was just like it was so cheap in the thrills and scares. It's just like it was like myself. I think they just really didn't even give a shit. I mean, it will be hard to top those first 2 Alien movies. I mean, no doubt about it. It's just like those are like the top of the top in terms of science fiction. It's just like, but it's like. It's like look at this movie. It's like it was like enough. It was like you almost say to yourself enough of it already. But they're doing more Alien movies to come. I mean like with Alien coming out. I mean Prometheus wasn't even that well done. But yeah. Going back to this movie. It's unbelievable how bad it is. It's coming from me. Okay, Colton. All right, Colton. Why don't you give us number 7 on your list?
Alien 3 came close to being on my list, but I went for Resurrection instead because 3 at least kind of did something with its story, and despite the sudden sequel death syndrome that Hicks and Bishop got hit with, the movie at least treated their deaths with dignity, I guess you could say. Like they weren't just quickly killed off. Their deaths were like Ripley was legitimately devastated by the fact that they were all dead and what have you. So you don't see that very often in franchises that really that casually kill off characters and what have you. But anyway,
well, for me, like I said, I'm sure with other people, it's unbelievable how bad that movie is.
Yeah. So it's like so bad that even David Fincher just sold it and whatnot. And I can't blame him for that, considering that it could have like potentially ended his career before it even started.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Anyway, number 7 on my list is the Divergent series, Insurgents. Yeah, sorry, Jack. Okay, you didn't say. Okay, I know you said it wasn't all that good either, but I think Divergent, the first movie, is actually a good, if unassuming, film. It had some decent ideas going for it, and it had a certain likability to its execution. Insurgent, however, most of that likability goes out the window. It's like I can't really put my thought. Okay, I can sort of put my thoughts into words, but there's just something off about its execution. The gunfights are just poorly edited. It's like characters are standing in like perfectly still, yet they can't get hit. I mean, even stormtroopers have better accuracy than that, and the entire movie just felt very unnecessary. There was just there was that conspiracy surrounding the box that Kate Winslet's character found that supposedly could only be opened by Divergence, but we don't know where the box came from. I don't know. I don't know if the book explained it, but nevertheless, it was just very poorly explained, and then apparently there are other levels of divergence and what have you, which aren't explained either. It's like this movie's main problem was that they just did not do a good job explaining most of its plot points and whatnot, and it doesn't seem like we're going to be getting much of an explanation in the next film, Elysian, either. I think my main issue with the movie was definitely the way it ended. First off, it ends like it basically ends making you think that the franchise is over. I mean, it ends with our heroes like beating Janine and then deciding that they're going to go walk off into the world beyond the wall, and then Janine gets killed. So it's kind of, well, that's pretty much the final loose end of the franchise. Nothing else to tell, I guess. But nope, we have another film going on. And the fact that Janine, or I think that was her character's name. Hold that thought. Let me check real quick. Yeah, Janine. The fact that she got killed off was my biggest spoiler alert. It was my biggest gripe because she had just learned her entire life was a lie when they finally opened the box, and for her to not actually get to be around for the future installments to explore that was just a real bummer, among other things. Like I said, yeah, I know they're based on a book, so they kind of have to follow the book's storyline and all that jazz. But by the same token, I mean, who knows? They could have decided, hey, screw the book, we'll do our own thing. Okay, I know that wouldn't have worked well with book readers, but you know what I mean. It's basically like the kind of film that you should watch so you would know how to not handle a young adult novel adaptation, I think.
Right. I haven't seen the Divergent series, but it seems to me like a really low rent, the poor person's version of the Hunger Games or something like that.
It's like it's not really it's like it has enough to distinguish it from the Hunger Games, but yeah, the fact that they were released so close together, it is gonna make people think that it's Hunger Games like and whatnot, and I don't know. It's a shame though because Shailene Woodley is actually a pretty good actress and does a good job with the material she has to work with. Outside of one scene in Insurgent where she looked like she was constipated, but that's another story.
Oh boy. All right. Okay. All right, going on to number 6. Number 6 for me is Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen. Oh God.
Yeah, that's way too high on your. That's way too low on your list, man.
It's not that bad.
Really?
No, it's bad. It's just not as bad as the one I have on my list.
Right. But still, it's a pretty awful movie. And for these reasons, it is dumb, it is loud, obnoxious, kind of crass in some parts, and it's crude, and it's unfunny, and it's just, all in all, just plain, just awful. You know, you have Shia LaBeouf screaming to the top of his lungs screaming out every line every second of the damn time. You know, Megan Fox as hot as she is, you know, it's more like a hot air balloon compared to anything else. You know, you have the stupid Transformers, you know, Jetfire, and of course Devastator, who has, believe it or not, robotic testicles. I'm like, what the fuck was Michael Bay thinking? It's like I said, I mean, the action is pretty incoherent, to say the least. It's just like the visual effects is amazing. The art is just too much of them. It's just too in your face, like most Michael Bay movies are, you know. And they're gonna, and of course, and it has some awful parts to it. Screaming, style bus screaming like a girl. It's like when he finds out
Optimus!
Oh my god! Yeah, and the whole thing with Optimus Prime, just another case of Deus Ex Machina. I guess you can. I'm not sure, but yeah, that whole thing is just like, yeah, you kill him off, and then you bring him back. I know they killed him off in the Transformers film, in the animated movie, but they come on and bring him back to life. And I don't want to say this, but maybe he should just stay dead, or maybe not. It's just, but still, the movie is just like, it just, there's no denying how awful it truly is. It's just something. It's just something. It's a huge insult to great movie making. It's just truly like, this is at the bottom of the barrel, definitely. All right, Colton, why don't you give us number 6 on your list?
Number 6 on my list is Mortal Kombat Annihilation. If you want to be technical, this movie is probably the most accurate movie, probably one of the most accurate video game adaptations ever. It's based on a fighting game, and as we all know, nobody cares about the story in a fighting game. They just skip right to the fighting and keep on fighting to their heart's content, and that's what this movie is. Nothing but fighting with the faintest traces of a plot to tie it all together. Too bad the fighting is badly choreographed, the acting is too terrible to be ignored, and what the hell is up with some of those special effects? And don't even get me started on the final fight between Liu Kang and Shao Kahn. It was absolutely dreadful. It's just them hitting and kicking each other a lot and what have you, with nothing really all that special about, like I said, special about the choreography. In fact, Liu Kang doesn't even deliver a fatality to Shao Kahn. He just delivers like a really hard back kick or something to him, and then the Elder Gods decide, okay, Shao Kahn's been defeated. Let's go and whatnot. It's like, if you want an example of how to not do a popcorn movie, watch Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
Oh boy, I think I've seen the first one.
The first one is not special, but it's definitely a lot more watchable and better than this movie, with better. Like, the fights were better and whatnot, and there was an actual fatality at the end compared to, like I said, Shao Kahn just getting kicked really hard and then that's it.
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't even bother looking at those movies again. Yeah, myself. I mean, okay, I'll call. Jack, why don't you give us number 6 on your list?
My number 6 is X-Men Origins Wolverine. Which I really liked up until we got near the end. I mean, you had Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, so that's always good. You had Liev Schreiber as Sabretooth, which was great. And then you fucked it all up. Fox. How do you make Deadpool mute, sew his mouth shut, and then turn him into like a gigantic clusterfuck of mutant powers? I mean, it was just awful. Just awful, and so that's why it's on my list, because they kind of fucked it up. So by the time they ended it, I was like, well, everything's kind of fucked up now, so who really cares? So that's my number 6.
Yeah. With all the blaze coming out of his
Barakapool.
Yeah, I can't. It was just like, I almost have nightmares thinking about that. I mean, unfortunately,
but it's still not the worst X-Men film ever made.
What is the worst X-Men film ever made?
That is on my list.
Okay, to be continued.
Okay. All right, going on to number 5 for me is Terminator Salvation. Terminator Salvation. Well, Rise of the Machines, well, not the worst installment. It's definitely not. It's far from the best. You know what I mean, most definitely. Then they came up with, this film. I mean, they came up with this movie. Why? I mean, why the whole thing with it's
Piss
just,
people off.
Yeah, it was just like, why? It was just like, yeah, Christian Bale he was just basically playing Batman again with all the gruff voices. I said, you won't kill me. It's like, dude, you're not Batman, wrong movie. Fuck, you know. And this is like, this is. And Sam Worthington, I mean, as good as he is, you know, it's just like, yeah, you're kind of right about Colton. Like the most of the movie focused on him instead of John Connor. I mean, the thing about the movie is it had a central antagonist, you know, and plus it gave you no one really to root for. Definitely, it's just like I said. I mean, despite the best effort it had, despite the visual look of it, it just, you know, it was lazily written and, you know, shoddily directed. It's just like, you know, it lacked humor, and it had a sort of a sinking feeling to it when you watched it. It's just like it's like the filmmakers didn't have the best interest for this film. It's just like too many left turns were made in terms of how they were going to go with the story. It's just like, you know, I was terribly disappointed. It's just like I just I was as like I was I just and even the Terminator franchise has you know, hard time recovering enough as it is. We'll talk about that later in this video. All right, Colton, why don't you give us number 5 on your list?
Number 5 on my list is X-Men Origins Wolverine. Okay, let's get the elephant in the room out of the way first. Baraka Pool. Sewing his mouth shut aside, there was potential for Wolverine to realize that this was the fate that he barely avoided, but that fact doesn't cross his mind. And you know, this movie was supposed to be about Wolverine's tragic past, yet Wade Wilson is the one that seems to get the short end of the stick, and we don't even know how this happened to him. Maybe they would explore that in another movie, I'm not sure. And the fact that they didn't even reveal that, the fact that they shot 2 post-credit scenes that you might not see the one where Deadpool was alive, that was just pretty stupid in my opinion. They should have just included both post-credit scenes, with the Wolverine in Japan one being the mid-credit scene, and the Deadpool being alive thing being the post-credit scene, because one, it has Deadpool briefly breaking the fourth wall, and it shows that he's alive, which would have kept the audience interested, I think, as opposed to this infamous case of his mouth being sewn shut being a never live it down moment. But anyway, moving on. The true failure of this movie is the fact that it isn't all that traumatizing. The flashbacks in X-Men 2 were quite disturbing, yet when we see the memory of Wolverine escaping Stryker's facility play out, Wolverine's memories are intact, and he just kicks ass and runs away, no worse for wear. Did the writer of this movie even watch X2 X-Men United? That scene right there just negated the entire purpose of the movie, leaving us with just another installment in the Wolverine show instead of the deeper story we were supposed to get. This movie is only saved from being lower on the list thanks to Logan's relationship with Sabretooth and Liev Schreiber's performance of the character, and some of the acting from the other cast members like Lynn Collins as Kayla Silverfox. Admitted the scene where she almost made Stryker shoot himself was a pretty badass moment. But you know, this movie actually could have been saved if Wolverine lost his memories when Stryker ordered them to be erased. Because then seeing him try to figure out who he is, and actually having people being around that know who he is, could have been a pretty interesting story. But alas, all we got was the prequel to a prequel, more or less, which was basically this movie just amounted to being a prequel to the Wolverine being amnesiac thing. So like I said, a prequel to the prequel. It was just very disappointing and nearly killed the X-Men franchise again. Thankfully, we had First Class came around and saved everything, in addition to maybe wiping this movie from canon. I'm not entirely sure. Like, I've heard that Liev Schreiber is coming back for the final Wolverine film, which is just even more confusing. It's like, by this point, I have given up trying to figure out trying to connect the X-Men movies together. It's like, okay, screw it.
Yeah, well, what they said, they fixed most of the continuity errors with Days of Future Past. Maybe there's something in there that maybe there's something with his regards to his appearance in this movie, it's not as complicated as we might think it might be.
Yeah, maybe.
Right.
I hope it does get rated R though, because, well, Wolverine has claws, okay, so a certain amount of blood is expected.
Right, that's good for Deadpool, but Wolverine, yeah, Wolverine's, he's a tough bastard, but
I want it to be R.
I'm just saying you can only like show characters getting sliced apart and what have you with no blood being present so much before it gets just silly, I guess. Because I was watching the scene from X-Men Origins Wolverine where Wade Wilson used his swords on a few people, then he like stabs them and then he pulls them out and there's no blood at all on the swords. I think that's just kind of awkward, I guess, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, but yeah, like I said, I don't think it's necessary to make it an R-rated movie. They don't have to follow the trend. Like, Deadpool kicked ass, by becoming, a highly popular comic book movie, but they don't need to make this one an R.
Alright, I think it's time for my number 5.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, Jeff.
And my number 5 is Spider-Man 3, which I really like this movie. I mean, I loved watching the final fight between Goblin, Spider-Man, and teaming up against Venom and Sandman. But then there's the shitty things about this movie. Venom sucked. I was really excited when they were gonna put Gwen Stacy in the movie, and they did nothing with her at all.
Okay.
And then of course you have Emo Peter. My name is Peter Parker, and I'm an emo kid. Look at my weird hair as I flip girls on the street. Yeah, I'm Peter Parker, yo. I'm emo freaking, yo. It's like, please, no. Please. No. It was so bad that they ended up rebooting the franchise again.
Yes, you have to just, the dignity of that movie, it still, haunts me to this day. I guess it's like, oh man.
And to think we almost got a Spider-Man 4, but then Sam Raimi left the project, and then Fox apparently was like Fox, and then the executives were like, okay, screw it, we'll just start all over again.
Right. Okay, going on to number 4 for me, it is Transformers: Age of Extinction. Yeah, Transformers. I get goosebumps, and not in a very good way when I think about this movie.
I like Transformers more.
Get up, Jack!
It's the best Transformers movie after the first one.
Shut up. This is like, oh my god. And the fact that Michael Bay is coming back for Transformers 5 makes you, let's just question your faith in humanity.
We're also getting Transformers 6 and 7 as well.
Not directed by him, thankfully, but we're going to have
They might be. And we're getting a Bumblebee spinoff. Hooray for a movie nobody cares about.
Right.
I don't know. I guess from an executive standpoint, it makes sense to bring Bay back because his movies always make money and whatnot.
But this is the lowest grossing movie in this country, the lowest grossing Transformers movie in this country, and that's saying something because the others made over 300 million. This one, however, made around 200, under 300 million. And you kind of sort of think to yourself, it might have been the quality of the movie, which it sinks to the lowest common denominator.
They need to reboot this franchise.
Probably, and it's noisy, overplotted. It has uninteresting characters. It's just like they just fuck it all up with all sorts of nonsensical, absurd bullshit.
Chris, breathe.
It stalls my senses. I'm looking through my eyeballs. I'm like, no. It's like I can't believe what I'm fucking watching. Is this movie as bad as it actually is? Oh god. It's like, can a franchise go any lower? It's like. And most of all, this movie is probably one of the dumbest movies ever made. It's just like, Mark Wahlberg is enjoyable for the most part, but the rest of the movie is such a full of shit. It's just, Yeah, you fought. You fought. If you fought the hard sight of Devastator's testicles was bad enough to give you like shudder, and bad enough to make you shudder. Um, you have not seen the dignity that is Transformers 4. It's a movie I relish hating. It's just, and like I said, I question his returning to the franchise for a fifth movie. Oh, I'm gonna go. Oh my God! It's like, wow. All right, Colton, why don't you give us number 4 on your list?
Number 4 on my list is Jaws: The Revenge.
Oh boy.
This movie is terrible and should be lower on the list, but the other movies are much worse. Anyway, we all know about how utterly preposterous the plot of this movie is. A shark kills Mrs. Brody's youngest son and then decides it wants to finish the job and wipe out the rest of her family. Now, the shark in the original movie was super persistent, but it didn't follow the characters from their home all the way to the freaking Bahamas. I mean, that's probably the one thing about this movie that nobody will ever forget. I mean, in addition to that, we also have Mrs. Brody having flashbacks to moments that she wasn't even present for, including probably the worst one yet, her flashing back to Chief Brody getting ready to blow up the shark. Maybe it wasn't a flashback, but them just trying to, I don't know, whoever was in charge trying to do juxtaposition or whatever, but all it did was make you wonder, why am I watching this movie instead of watching the much better Jaws? And there's also the fact that the shark, when they kill it, and the original ending, the shark gets, they ram it with a boat, and then the shark blows up for no reason. It's an ending you have to see in order to believe, because it just makes absolutely no sense. At least in the original ending, when they killed it, it was the shark gets stabbed by part of the ship, and it dies from being stabbed. It doesn't freaking blow up. Oh boy.
Wow.
And apparently Michael Caine himself has never, and the fact that Michael Caine himself was in this movie is just, damn.
Yeah.
Apparently he's jokingly said that he's never seen this movie, but he's seen the house that the movie bought for him.
Yes, I'm pretty sure he was like, okay, yeah, I was just doing it for the paycheck. I mean, it's like, yeah, it's just like, yeah. The worst part is actually experiencing the experience of working on the movie. I guess you take a little bit of the script. It's like, do I really have to put myself through this? Suffer for the indignity of this. Oh man. Yeah. All right, Jack. Why don't you give us number 4 on your list?
My number 4 is The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
All right.
Yeah, boy.
I really enjoyed the first one of the reboots. I was excited when they were doing the sequel. I was loving all the marketing. And then we saw the movie, and I thought, it's okay. And then a couple of months later, it came out on DVD, and I watched it again, and it was very hard to sit through. First of all, there are the good things about the movie, and basically they are Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone. Pretty much everything else sucks.
Mm-hmm.
You had Green Goblin, who was good for the first part of the movie, and then he does a total 180. He was good at and he becomes Green Goblin. He kills Gwen Stacy for no freaking reason. You ruined Electro by making him like this creepy stalker dude.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the Rhino, who acts like he's in a fucking cartoon. It was so bad that they're rebooting it again, but this time they went to Marvel for help, so hopefully the next one will be better. And it won't make Spider-Man fans cry everywhere.
It's Marvel. When have they ever let us down? And besides Iron Man 3 and Thor 2.
Iron Man 2.
All right. Well, I kind of
Iron Man.
sort of a.
And that's my number 4.
Okay, all right. On to number 3. The top number 3. All right, number 3 on my list is Terminator Salvation.
Did you already say Terminator Salvation?
Yeah, I was about to say Terminator Genesis. Yeah, Terminator Genesis.
You saw that piece of shit?
Yes. Yes. And what I say, I was, I was like this. After the movie, I was just like this, just shaking the entire time. It's just saying how bad it is. It's just like,
What have you done to me?
yeah, it's like there's no denying that Terminator Genesis is a bad movie. It's like the greatest hits, complication of the first two Terminator movies. It takes material from better movies, it just turns it into shit. You have like him trying to go back for time, trying to look after his mother again. We talk about Kyle Reese. He had the liquid transforming, metamorphing cyborg, which was introduced in Terminator 2. It lacked any, it just lacked any kind of intelligence to it. Yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger was probably the best part about it. It's like, but probably the best part about it. It just was so boring. Of course, you had to suffer for the indignity of seeing Jai Courtney acting again after his bout in A Good Day to Die Hard as John McClane's son. It's like, yeah, Emilia Clarke wasn't all that good either. She's good on Game of Thrones, but she wasn't particularly good in this. It's just like, the action sequences were pretty decent to say the least. But it didn't thrill me in the way the first two Terminator movies did. It took a lot of left turns. It just didn't have that spark. I wasn't, I was kind of surprised in a sense, that it wasn't as good as it should have been. It's just like, oh my god! I remind myself. I want this series to get back on track, but it's hard for me to have some hope or any at all for this series. After what we got with these last three movies, especially this one. It's like, another travesty in this once mighty franchise. Oh my god! All right, Colton, why don't you give us number 3 on your list?
Number 3 on my list. Hold on for 1 second. Number 3 on my list is Batman and Robin, better known as executive meddling gone terribly, terribly wrong. Look, I understand that making money is important for any kind of business, but to see the executives actually go that far out of their way to make this movie a kid-friendly Batman for the sake of toy sales is insulting, And then we have the actual movie itself. Like, sure, okay, maybe they could have actually pulled something off with this being a more kid-friendly Batman. But they don't at all. What we get is just one of the most utterly bizarre films ever. I mean, first we have Bane being dumb muscle, and you know something? We have Arnold. If you're gonna have Bane be dumb muscle, why not have Arnold Schwarzenegger play him? Okay, because he would actually have pulled it off, I think. But no, we have him playing Mr. Freeze, and we all, ice puns and all that jazz. It's what you can expect. It's what everybody talks about. And then we have Poison Ivy being bizarrely played by what's her name, Uma Thurman, and poor Uma. I'm happy her career got back on track thanks to Quentin Tarantino and the Kill Bill movies. And of course, there is the infamous back credit card. It's like this movie is basically it's like this film is a textbook example of how badly executive meddling can go for a film. It's like I've only seen bits and pieces of the other Batman movies, but to see them go for something as dark and mature as the original Batman, Tim Burton Batman, to this abomination is sad to say the least. And of course, I mean, the failure of this movie killed the franchise, then we got the Dark Knight trilogy out of it, but the fact that we had to get the Dark Knight trilogy to save the fact that the franchise needed to be saved is just an even bigger strike. Okay, you know what I mean? Like I would rather live in a world where the Dark Knight trilogy didn't exist, but we still had good Batman movies, as opposed to someone having to make the Dark Knight trilogy so Batman would have his dignity restored. You know?
Right. Absolutely. So,
Okay, now it is time for my number 3. And that is Superman Returns.
Superman Returns, not 4.
I haven't seen 4.
Oh, okay.
Or 3.
Okay, that makes sense then.
Really?
I don't even know if I've seen 1 or 2.
Oh god.
And you've only seen one. Okay, never mind. Go on. Sorry.
But Superman Returns, what a horrible, horrible movie. 1, you have a Superman movie where he doesn't fight anybody.
Yeah.
They basically just should have called this movie Superman Lifts Heavy Things. Because that's pretty much all he did the entire movie. Lex Luthor had another stupid
first one
plot.
also.
The
Sorry,
worst
go on.
part, the part that I hate about this movie the worst, is Superman decides I can lift a giant meteor mountain of kryptonite, which is the one thing that can kill me, but I'm perfectly fine, even though you showed him earlier in the movie with 2 henchmen with kryptonite beating the shit out of him. But now he can pick up a whole planet full of it and just throw it. Terrible, terrible movie. Thank God we got Man of Steel to reboot Superman, so we can actually have a decent Superman movie. Bryan Singer, I don't know what you were thinking because you're great on X-Men, but you never should have done that movie.
Yeah. That's the thing I have myself. It's like, Bryan Singer is like, with Superman, let's just say that touch isn't there, I guess.
It's what happens when you hire a fan of the franchise, and it's basically what happens when you hire a fan of the franchise, and they are apparently too big a fan of the franchise to actually make a good movie on their own.
Right. Okay. All right. Going on to number 2. Number 2 for me is Superman. It's a tie. I mean, it's Superman 3 and Superman 4: The Quest for Peace. Yeah, Superman 3. Okay, yeah. After you had 2 great. You had 2 great comic book movies with Superman 1 and 2. Now they had to make themselves sink with Superman 3. The worst part of it is they brought in Richard Pryor. I'm like myself, huh? Richard Pryor in the Superman movie? Whose bright idea was that? And you have him fighting off against a supercomputer or stuff like that. It's just like, I admit the scenes in Smallville were pretty well done. It's just like, the premise of the movie is ridiculous. I mean, it's just like the villain is kind of a stand-in for Lex Luthor, and it's I think there was not much care and investment in the Superman characters, not enough faith. I mean, it's a campy sort of movie. It's just like, it kind of reminds me of the old Batman TV series, which is a worse comparison, but albeit a pretty appropriate one. Superman 3, there's no doubt, is an awful movie, but it doesn't really compare to Superman 4. With the injustice that is Nuclear Man. It's just if you do not tell me, you will hurt people. He's like, whoa, destroy Superman. Lame. It's like he wasn't even intimidating. He was just like it's a villain you would see in a cartoon, basically. I mean, he's like, Christopher Reeve, even though he wrote the story and gave a good performance, it's like he could not save this film from, being the train wreck that it is. Bad plotting, awful script, absurd, directions in terms of the story, and whose bright idea was it to fly a girl into the space when in space you can't even breathe? It was like, it was like, I mean, yeah. It's kind of the Superman franchise has kind of restored its goodwill, with Man of Steel. But yeah, with these two movies, yeah. It's painful to watch. Painful to watch that.
Dog shit.
It's just,
Hey, Jack, can you pick up your dog shit? Hold on one second. My roommate's being an asshole.
okay.
No, I'm not being an asshole. I'm ordering you to do this. Or else I'm going to break your laptop. You have a respond.
Okie dokie. I mean,
I want this beat.
okay, we won't mind that. Yeah, but yeah, Superman 3 and 4 are definitely at the bottom of the barrel in terms of not just comic book movie making, but filmmaking in general. Okay, Golden, why don't you give us number 2 on your list?
Number 2 on my list is a movie that shits on the legacy of the franchise. Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare.
Okay.
To start off, this is the end of the main series, not counting Wes Craven's New Nightmare, and yet there are no returning characters except Freddy himself. I've heard that there was a lot of executive meddling going on with this movie, like we were supposed to get Alice from the last movie coming back from this film, but then again, she would have been killed off, so I guess it's better off that she didn't show up, because after all the crap she had been through, to see her die would have been, well, stupid, for lack of a better word. But anyway, it shows you how out of ideas the writers were, where after draining Freddy of his power, forcing his spirit to cross over, draining him of all his power again, and then trapping him behind several dream barriers, Freddy is finally done in by being blown up. Okay, technically Freddy was in the real world when that happened, and the dream demons that inhabited his body fled now that they had no body to possess. But the dream demon thing was stupid because it really takes away from the, it takes away from the mystery and menace of Freddy. Like in Freddy versus Jason, they implied that the reason Freddy was around was because the kids were afraid of him, as opposed to this whole dream demon thing, which came right the hell out of nowhere. In fact, this movie introduced a lot of backstory to Freddy to try and justify a few things. Like, they introduced why he targeted children, and which also made him less scary, I think. And granted, he had been given a backstory as being the bastard son of 100 maniacs, and you know what? That was freaky enough. We didn't need to see that him growing up in an abusive childhood, having an abusive childhood, and then him losing his daughter and all that jazz. And to top it all off, we get one final, speaking of his daughter, yeah, she's the main character of this movie, but she doesn't find that out for at least half of the film, and it really doesn't amount to much in the end, because, like I said, this is the last movie, and they just blow him up, and that's it. It was a very disappointing end to the Nightmare franchise, and thankfully, Wes Craven came in to give the franchise a better send-off with Wes Craven's New Nightmare. I mean, granted, that movie took place in the real world as opposed to being part of the main series, but you know what? I'll take it compared to having Freddy's Dead be then Freddy versus Jason came out, so we had films, and then there was the remake. But in the main A Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, at least we had that to close things out, as opposed to Freddy's Dead, which was just an embarrassment of the franchise's legacy. Especially as the last line in the film is... Jack? Oh.
Okay.
Happy to see you, man.
Yeah, we can hear you, Jack.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Can't see you guys, but there you go.
Okay.
Anyway, but yeah. Especially since the last line in the movie was, Freddy's dead. And I'm like, so you had to actually have someone say Freddy's dead for us to actually buy him being dead this time, huh? Oh boy, it was not a proud moment in the franchise, especially since Freddy vs. Jason seems to kind of ignore the whole dream demon thing, giving Freddy his ability to be alive, and him just coming back for no reason. Good grief.
Okay, all right.
A textbook example of how to not end your franchise.
All right, Jack, why don't you give us number 2 on your list?
You guys didn't do number 1 yet?
Yep.
We haven't done it yet.
Okay, my number 2 is Transformers 3, which is the worst of the Transformers movie, in my opinion. 1, you decided let's not bring Megan Fox back. Okay, I get that. Because of what happened between her and Michael Bay. I get that. What I don't get is how you barely explain why they aren't together. And then you bring in a new chick who's not even an actress. She's a Victoria's Secret model, and she's horrible in it. Her dialogue is cringeworthy. And the movie itself is pretty much boring until you get to the big fight scene, which nobody cares about because it's in the last 30 minutes after an entire movie of boringness. Please reboot this franchise, please. And don't let Michael Bay near it.
Isn't that wish we all share? You know, that he doesn't put his fingerprints all over it. You know, it's just like, yeah. First Transformers was decent at best, but you know, it's gone straight to fucking hell. You know, what he, I mean, from the direction he's taking it in. You know, most certainly. Okay, going on to number one. Number one, the worst installments in movie franchises, and that movie for me is Batman Robin. I can't. Can we start? Can we start talking about bad about this? Can we start talking about this movie? Probably not, and probably not ever. Probably not for the rest, for all eternity, for God's sake, because this movie is so awful. Oh God! It's like from the lame dialogue to the horrible acting, from the loud special effects. This is the movie that it's just you can see it was from a mess from start to finish. You know, yes, we can go right on all day about Arnold Schwarzenegger and his arm and this stupid puns. It's like, what killed the dinosaurs? Yeah, it's Ice Age. All right, everyone, Joe. And I think everyone knows I like shitting on this movie because it's just a huge fuck fest, you know, start to finish.
You can't. Speaking of fuck fests, I would have really liked to fuck Batgirl.
What?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Oh, and you can't forget bat nipples.
Ooh.
Wait.
We can't suffer. Yes.
Bat nipples.
Bat nipples and bat asses.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, and the bat crotch peach.
It's like, what was Joel Schumacher? You know, what was going through his head?
I don't think the bat. I've heard the bat nipples weren't his fault, and considering, like I said, this movie was executive meddling gone wrong, I'm actually inclined to believe that.
He might have been smoking a little too much ganja.
Maybe. Yeah, but we didn't need bat nipples. We didn't need bat shots of the asses. We didn't need shots of the cross. We definitely didn't need the lame ass bat credit card. Yes.
A bat credit card.
Yes. Oh no! Please leave the cake without it. You know, it's like take that in another direction. It's like of course the Batman '60s TV series. There's no doubt its fingerprints are all over that and Batman Forever. But this is taken into a whole other level, man. It's just like
I didn't know what you're talking about my number one.
Yeah, just hold on, Jack. It's just like but thankfully we got out of that rut with Joel Schumacher, and it's just it is still an awful movie we love to shit on, definitely. And this is the worst of the worst. All right, Colton, would you give us number one on your list?
Yeah, before I do that, though, funny thing about the Bat credit card. So I was watching an episode of Justice League where Batman he ordered some coffee for himself, and he actually had exact change with him, and someone in the comments said, "What, no Bat credit card?" I guess he does leave the cave without it. But anyway, the number one on my list is Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen. So as everyone might remember from a few videos ago, when I talked about this movie, I went into a bit of a rant about how much I hated this movie, and it was probably the angriest you've ever seen me on this show, and I regret that every day because I don't like getting angry about movies. But yeah, this is a movie that it's basically everything about how basically if Mortal Kombat is how you shouldn't do popcorn movies, and X-Men Origins is a bad way to do prequels, and Freddy's Dead is a bad way to close out your franchise. Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen is a bad way to do sequel escalation. The action scenes are bigger than ever before, are way bigger than the first movie, but it feels like there's something just very empty about all of them. And I guess it's the fact that this movie is just kind of going through the motions. We have another evil Transformer that's supposed to be even worse than what's his name, the Megatron. Our heroes win the day and are no worse for wear. It's just kind of another movie in the middle of all of this. And I wouldn't have minded it all if the movie was actually interesting. But instead, Sam is still an annoying teenager, and any interesting aspects of Megan Fox's character were thrown out the window of this movie in favor of her being eye candy from start to finish. Like, I know she was eye candy in the first movie, but she at least got to have one moment of bad attitude where she was driving a tow truck with a Bumblebee attached to it so he could get back into the fight after he was injured. In this movie, she could have been left out of it, and there wouldn't have been any real changes to the story, if memory serves. Yeah. It's also, Optimus dies, and yeah, he gets brought back to life with little to no complications. There just wasn't any point to it. And of course, yeah, there's Devastator having testicles and just being a waste of a perfectly badass-looking Transformer, you know? I mean, he's huge, and apparently even Steven Spielberg was impressed. And what do they do with them? Very little, if nothing. I mean, the only Transformers that fight him are those two racist, annoying twins. It's like, the fact that the twins are more annoying than Jar Jar Binks shows you how bad they are, you know? It's a movie that I will happily not watch ever again.
Oh, yeah, I mean, of course, you're not the only one. Yeah, you're not the only one you're not the only one who would hope not to ever, who would not ever want to see that movie again. All right, Jack, what is number one on your list?
My number one is X-Men 3, The Last Stand. Coming off one of the best X-Men movies ever, X-Men 2, X-Men United. Bryan Singer leaves, and I can't remember the guy's name who took over.
Brett Ratner.
Thank you. Brett Ratner came over and fucked up the entire X-Men franchise that they had to come back and be rebooted. And then eventually Bryan Singer had to come back and save the sinking ship. Okay, things I hate about this movie. Number one, Magneto lets Jean Grey kill Professor X. I'm sorry? Even in the comics and the previous movie, they established, even though they're on the opposite sides, they are friends, there is no way Magneto would have just sat there and let him kill there. Also, Magneto just abandons Mystique after she turns into a human. Even though Magneto doesn't like humans, Mystique was an integral part of his plan, and they were pretty close, so I don't think he would have just left her there. Also, why is his hideout in the middle of the fucking woods? He's the master of magnetism. There's nothing metal in the freaking woods.
Maybe that's why he hid out there. The last place anyone would think to look.
They also kill Cyclops for no reason. Then they kill Jean Grey. They ruin the Dark Phoenix saga. Thanks a lot. I'm trying to think what else is horrible in that movie.
Rogue
was okay in that movie.
I felt like she was pretty wasted, though. I mean,
well, they haven't done her right, but I like Anna Paquin. I think she's done the best she can with their writing.
Yeah, I agree. I just felt like Rogue could have done more. Like, it could have had her in the end decide that she's going to take the cure, but she's going to first maybe help her friends out. So I just want to see her get in on the fight at least once, you know.
There are two good things from this movie. One is you have the meme started, "I'm the Juggernaut, bitch."
Oh, God.
And the second thing was Beast was pretty badass. Another thing that I don't like about this movie that is never explained, where the fuck is Nightcrawler? He joins you in X-Men 2 and in X-Men 3. You don't even acknowledge his existence.
Alan Cumming didn't like putting on the makeup, apparently.
Well, they could have at least said they wanted a peaceful life or something.
That's true.
They don't even acknowledge. It's like, let's just forget that Nightcrawler joined the team. Really? And then you have Professor X dying, and then he comes back in that guy's brain. You're like, what the fuck? And then none of that has ever happened in the movies because it's all been erased, thank God.
Oh, yeah. But yeah.
And then you have, then after the big fight, after they cure Magneto, they just let him get away instead of locking his ass up for being a criminal.
That's about it, Jack.
Yeah, that's why I hate X-Men 3.
You know, it's always bugged me how they never explain how Professor X is. Okay, they kind of explained it that he, put his consciousness into that comatose guy's body, but a lot of people have actually some people have noted that why is Professor X still paralyzed then unless the person whose body he was in was just happened to be paralyzed also, and there's also the fact that Magneto has his powers again out of nowhere in Days of Future Past. I guess you could make the argument that since it takes place in the future, they've obviously already had the conversation about how all this has gone down. They don't need to explain it to himself. Don't need to explain it again, but it's still kind of a cop out among other things. But
that's because it never happened.
Oh yeah.
I mean, when they were in the future and all that jazz, before it was all erased.
Yeah, I don't know.
It never happened, so yeah, it doesn't really matter in the end, but it's still something that kind of bugs me. But thankfully, we're finally getting Nightcrawler back in X-Men Apocalypse somehow. The timelines are once again confusing me, and
we're getting a new Cyclops, and hopefully they don't treat him like a pussy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, hopefully they actually do something useful with him.
Because Cyclops is my favorite X-Men, and I mean, he's only done he's only had maybe 2 moments of actual badass in the franchise, and that was when he saved Wolverine from Sabretooth, I think, and the scene in X-Men Origins when he gets to use his powers against some of the guards, and that was about it. There's also, debatably, the moment where he uses powers on Magneto to take him out during the climax, but that climax was just so melodramatic that it kind of almost, I don't know. Like I said, he's my favorite X-Men, so I'm hoping he gets treated properly in this new movie, and it looks like they might actually do that. So fingers crossed.
Yeah. They've been hitting out the ballpark with First Class and Days of Future Past. I mean, let's hope they don't treat Apocalypse like The Last Stand. You know.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Well, we have Bryan Singer back. Thank the Lord for that.
Yes. You know.
Yep.
We
never let Brett Ratner touch another X-Men movie.
I don't think that's going to be a problem, Jack. I don't think that's something we have to worry about in the future. Hopefully.
As long as Brett Ratner and the guy that directed X-Men Origins Wolverine doesn't direct another X-Men movie.
Oh, yeah, Gavin Hood. Yeah. Never, ever. Marvel never, ever let these guys.
No, the Gavin Hood thing, that was more of a Fox executive getting in the way and saying they wanted to do shit and bullying a new director.
What'd you say, Jack?
No, that the Gavin Hood thing wasn't really his fault because they were just bullying the new director, telling him they needed to put shit in and bossing him around and meddling in the movie.
Probably.
Should have just hired him to do what he wanted to do.
All right.
Probably.
Yeah. You know, I just find it funny how, for some reason, despite the amount of meddling Fox has done with the X-Men franchise, it still has a pretty good turnout compared to the Fantastic Four, which have yet to have a good movie yet.
Well, I think a lot of the people that were involved in that X-Men stuff are no longer at Fox.
Probably. Yeah.
Because I think there was a big management executive change.
Most likely. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Like I said, like Apocalypse. Hoping for like we can't wait to see that. Like I said, let's hope we don't get another train like Origins, like Wolverine or The Last Stand. Hopefully. All right.
Fun fact about the executives at Fox. Apparently, the one that I think his name was Tim Rothman or something, the guy that demanded that Deadpool's mouth be sewn shut. Once he left Fox, that was when Deadpool finally got greenlit and what have you. And apparently he just did not understand how Deadpool as a character could work. I'm betting he's feeling very foolish right now.
Yes, yes. And he's kicking himself in the head right now. It's just like due to the recent movie came out, definitely. All right, folks. That will do it for our show. Definitely, this is definitely a lot of fun talking about these movies. Talk about this particular subject on the worst installments of movie franchises. Yeah, definitely. I mean, and then you're wondering about our DC television universe recap show. Yeah, we're definitely going to do that in the near time. In the meantime, once Flash and Arrow do come back for their brief break, definitely. And then next week on the show, we'll be talking about top 10 movies that derailed movie franchises. Definitely. We'll make sure we check out for that next Monday. And I'd like to thank the people that would.
Some of them will probably have been on this list.
Mostly. It's a 99.9% chance, yes, that most of these films on our list, will end up on that list as well. Most definitely about that. Yeah, definitely about that. Also, I'd like to thank the people that were kind enough to join me for this whole thing. Colton, it was great having you on this show.
Happy to be back again, and hopefully I'll be back for the next episode. Though I'll attempt to have some variety on my list rather than it being just this list regurgitated.
Okie dokie. All right, Jack. Always, my man. It's always great having you. Mm-hmm.
Great to be here and talk about some of these shitty movies.
All right, great having you both on this show. Like I said, make sure to check out for our show next week, which is top 10 movies that derailed movie franchises. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is CN Miller, and until next time, goodbye.